Welcome back. So, well, that was some physical exercise, and now we are going to take you towards brain exercising as we get to see technology is evolving day by day, every day, and it's sometimes so very difficult and tough for people to keep up with all the technology which is surrounding us, especially in terms of the different kind of gadgets that we are using, be it Android phones to any kind of other smartphones, as well as the tablets, to the tabs, and to the laptops and the computers. There is so much and such fancy applications and security settings that it's so impossible to keep up with them. But nonetheless, we try to keep you updated with all of those, even with the experts who join us here in the program. So we hope that you would be able to benefit from this segment of the program, in which we are going to be talking about the different guidelines that you can follow when it comes to keeping safe from hackers, and how it is that you can keep your tablets to your computers and your phones especially safe and secure. Joining us here in the discussion is Mr. Fahad Hassan Al-Dosari, who's a senior information security engineer and a certified ethical hacker. Assalamu alaikum and good morning.
Assalam, how are you, sir?
Very, very well, and it's really good to have you back with us here in the program, Mr. Fahad. How have you been?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing good. Thank you for this warm welcoming.
Well, it's our pleasure to have you here in the studio, especially as we always try to keep updated with technology, though it's very difficult for people, and for me it's even all the more difficult. But nonetheless, as in today's edition of the program, we are going to be talking to you about some of the important guidelines as well. First of all, Mr. Fahad, let me ask you, in every household, wherever there are children, I think parents are so very, very concerned about children when they are using the internet, especially because internet is a world on its own. How do we protect the children when they are using the internet especially?
Okay, that's a very good question, but let me clear myself before I start. Okay, this session is, as we always say, this session is intended for educational purposes. Anything I will say here should not be used for hacking or cracking or doing any malicious thing. Hacking and cracking is considered to be a crime in Saudi Arabia law. Now, your question is a very good question, but let me expand it in a way we cover more concerns. I will divide it into two parts, one for YouTube and one for Windows-based system and Android. Let me start with YouTube. Yes, it's really concern every parent to see their kids watching so many corrupted things on YouTube. With that being said, YouTube has created a filter, protection filter called safety mode, which is an opt-in setting set up by YouTube to help screen out any potentially objectionable content that you may prefer not to see, or you don't want others in your family to stumble across while they are enjoying YouTube. The setting of that filter is so easy. You have just to go to the YouTube page, then go to the bottom. You will see a safety button. You click over it, and you will have two options, on and off. By default, it's set as an off. So you set it as an on, then click save, and that's it. You are done. This setting will be stored in your default browser. To tell you the truth, this filter is not accurate 100%. But at least it's better than nothing.
Mm-hmm. And even after deleting the cookies, still working, the filter?
Yeah, yeah, because the setting is not stored in the cookies, it is stored on the default browser setting.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be there forever.
Oh yeah, and Mr. Fahad, let me ask about maybe the programs that for protection. There are some programs that might block a website or maybe a part of a website, and it's called parental control, and parents tend to buy them and install them. Are they efficient?
Yes, but let me mention a point here.
Mm.
If your child watch you when you're doing this setting, he can't alter it. Nowadays, these children,
Yeah.
they are really smart. You know, they can do so many things. So also, if he used a different browser, if he log on to that system as an administrator and he used a different browser which get no dependency on your default browser, he still, that filter will not be applied to him. So the only solution to this is he will have to apply this setting using username and password. So you'll have to log on to YouTube and do the same cycle we did a while ago, is you have to go and set it on and save, and that's it. Then he will not be able to change it forever. Whatever browser he will use, it will not be changed unless he knows your username and password.
Mhm. And you mentioned in the beginning that you will talk about YouTube and then you'll move to Windows.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Windows system, actually there is variety of problems. Okay. One of them is most of the parents, when they buy a desktop or laptop for their kids, they let them access that system as an administrator. Now, if you access the system as an administrator, you can install anything and you can alter anything. Okay. Now, to protect your kid, they have to create a user password for him. So if he is a user, he cannot even install another browser. He cannot alter anything. Plus, they can benefit out of that. There is a feature on Windows called parental control. And this feature will allow them to set up the time they can work on the internet and set up which site they are authorized to go on, which sites they are not allowed. So they can control them. They can control their behavior on the internet. But unless you make them as a user. For Android, you have to get an application which is capable of doing application lock. So we're talking about tablets, of course. So if you lock the application, you can lock anything on the tablet in Android. That include the settings, camera, and microphone. And with the camera, the kid can just go and take shot of anything. And now it's very easy to upload any picture to YouTube, Instagram, or what have you.
Yeah.
Indeed. Now, Mr. Fahad, as we're upon the lines of the internet, we get to see that people are so active when it comes to using social networking websites. Especially, we get to see there are some of the workplaces, they are blocking the social networking websites in their organizations, in their workplaces. But yet again, people are accessing it through their smartphones, which are under their control. Now, how it is that you can actually keep your security settings right when you're using smartphone on these social networking websites? What to do, what not to do? I mean, I'm sure lots of people would be concerned about it. I think people who are associated with the public sector would maybe have a prime concern. This is a major reason because of which I left using these social networking websites, because I would always be afraid about the security settings, not because I share private content on it, but sometimes because you do not want people who you don't know to access your private photos or private notes or things that you're sharing with family and friends.
Okay, that's really a great two-in-one question. Okay. Now, you're talking about using social network and using internet with your smartphone. Both of them is really a big topic, but I'll try to touch base on the critical ones. Now, let me start with social networks. As you know, Facebook is a great way to stay in touch with family and share big and small moments with your friends and assorted other connections. Now, Facebook administration has made it to be a public. So, whatever you post there in Facebook, without taking the right measures, it will be public. With that being said, you have to make sure that you present the most appropriate profile to each friend. Otherwise, your pictures to John T. Vegas will end up at your boss news feed, which you might not like.
Yeah, I see it happening to some people online.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's really concerning me on Facebook and Twitter is the information gathering, and that's done by hackers. Hacker can inject an application with a malicious code which will gather an information about you, one of which is location information. Now, when he inject your machine, when he inject your phone with that a code, he can get your location
Okay,
from.
how does that happen?
Well,
I
cannot-
mean, no, I want to know, I don't want to know how it is
So
done, but I want to
technical.
know as in,
Okay, I'll give you an example after I finish. Now, if he inject your phone with a malicious code through an application, that application will gather your location coordinates from an application or from service called Google Location Services. And this location services is always active by our mistake. When you set up your phone first time, the second welcome screen, it will show you two checkboxes which you already checked, and it will tell you this is an application, this is the location services, and it will gather your information even if there is no application required that. And you know, when we set up our phones, we just press next, next, next.
I put it off usually, and when I need it, I turned it on.
Okay,
and
that's a very good security measure. Now this, it will take the information. Now the hacker could get all this information from these services. Now let me give you an example. Suppose we are friends, right? Suppose I want to kidnap Ghazi. Okay, so I will inject his phone with malicious code. Then it will give me a random of where he goes, where he lives, where he works, where he go after work. Okay, then I could put a plan for his movement. Okay, this is not the only thing. As if he used that application through Facebook, that application could be recommended to his friend. Suppose you are his friend here in studio and his friend in Facebook, so the application will be recommended to you. Then when you install that application, the same cycle will start. Then we'll start gathering information about you, the same as we did.
whoa, but tell me, Mr. Fahad, as to, again, how is it that somebody can inject this into your device?
Well, it's just a program. See, he will get the program code and will inject another code which will get this information for him. So this happen always in Facebook with the games. So you'll see people, they love games in Facebook. It's free. So they install the games, they play on the game. And the most bad thing on that thing is these applications will gather not only your location, it will gather even your data, your information, passwords, anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I just
because-
wanted to make sure that I'm safe. So since I don't use the networking website, I don't have to worry
Yeah.
as much. But is it only through social networking website, or could it be done with other means as well?
Yes, it could be done. Let's say if you enable your, I mean that will happen. They will gather the information even if you don't enable your GPS.
Yeah.
Now, if you enable your GPS, it's another story. If you enable your GPS, any picture you take, it will get your coordinates on that picture, and even more. Hackers can use tools to get them deep details on the pictures.
Yeah, and I found out that in my iPhone, the albums are sorted by the location that I took the pictures in. It says Medina Munawara, Makkah Mukarramah, Jeddah, City, Riyadh. Since I bought this device, because I let it on, but now I turned it off after realizing that, after I read about this thing.
Yeah, it's not only that. You see, there is another issue with applications in Facebook and Twitter. Some of these applications will post things in your behalf
Yeah.
on Facebook. Okay. Also, they would transport your tweets from Twitter to Facebook. Now the question, how these applications can access your Facebook without your presence? That's mean this application stores your username and password on their database, which really urge these companies to secure their database. Otherwise, hacker can hack these companies' database and steal our username and password.
This is why you always should have a trust with the source of the application you're downloading and double check of the source. But let me ask you about the firewall, which is comes with the Windows as a regular application. Is it efficient? Because I don't think that it's too efficient.
Well, we'll victimize Microsoft then.
Yeah, this is a problem. And also,
No, it is really It is good.
Mhm.
It is good. But if you intend to use a firewall or you want to protect yourself, you should get an application or antivirus which is designed for internet. Then you'll have two in one. You'll have an antivirus, then you will have a firewall. Then you can play around with this firewall settings, to allow traffic coming out, going out.
Yeah, the problem is that some people, they don't want to download antivirus since it's too heavy sometimes and makes the computer too slow.
Yes.
But let me ask you about, as we said, the data that we store on social networks, especially Facebook. Facebook authorities and people working Facebook, of course, they have all the access and the information of the world now. And the total, it's a big issue that we don't want to discuss about. But let me talk in a small part, which is the privacy thing, the privacy settings. Do you see that people are fully aware of how to set up their privacy? Since Facebook is changing now, every now and then, every 2 months or 3 months, with the new privacy settings and with the new settings in general. Do you see that people are like following the updates and the privacy and updating their privacy settings?
Well, yes, some people really following that. And the only problem is the lack of awareness. So if you need, we could do a session on the best practices, how to set up the setting on Facebook, the privacy setting. So if your audience interested in that, we could come
sure.
up with a
Okay,
session.
so we'll have our viewers to answer to that. If you are interested in us doing an exclusive session with Mr. Fahad Al-Dosari
Also Twitter
about
too.
Facebook and Twitter, so how can you store your security
Twitter is not a big
settings,
deal, but
right?
Facebook is a bigger deal for most
Indeed.
people.
And people love to share their information, data. Sometimes you would know, oh, I'm going on a holiday for 3 days to this place, so, makes it clear that mom and dad and nobody else is going to be home. So, your home is really free and easy to enter zone, and so many of the things that we can talk about. But we want to hear from you if you're interested in this subject, so that we would have Mr. Fahad Al-Dosari to come and speak to us more in detail about it. And very briefly, Mr. Fahad, before we bid farewell to you, let me ask you, let's say a person who is a total noise when it comes to the gadget world, like myself, goes and purchases a smartphone. And probably, he does not really mean to harm himself or harm anybody else. But how is it that he can make sure that this device is going to stay clear from any of the problems and as well as it's going to stay protected?
Oh, okay, that's a good question. Now, in smartphones, first you have to keep updating your operating system. Okay? Otherwise, if you escape updating, the flaws or the vulnerabilities will stay there. The other major issue, which I feel I saw people failing of doing that, is to install an antivirus which is capable of detecting an arbitrary code execution, and never depend on free antivirus. If something free, free things will never protect you. The other point is, do not install any application which you are not sure about it. Also, do not install any application recommended to you by your friends. Even if it wasn't in Facebook, because sometimes you will have the application for Facebook on your smartphone, so you can be hacked through your Facebook into your smartphone. Also, what you mentioned, Ghazi, is disable Google location services if you don't need it. Otherwise, your information will be kept there.
Very well said, Mr. Fahad Hassan Dosari. We'd like to thank you so much for
Thank you
your
very much. I
valuable time.
appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that was Mr. Fahad Hassan Dosari, the Senior Information Security Engineer and also a Certified Ethical Hacker, which is a new, actually, title that I will ask you about it later. But for now, our dear viewers, hopefully you've enjoyed what and learned maybe about some of the security measures that we should take and steps, actually, that we should do through the social media, the social networks that are popular nowadays. For now, we'll stop for our next segment. We'll see a report and we'll be back to you. Stay tuned.